In unprecedented Pentagon shakeup, Trump fires top U.S. general, five others, new chairman of Joint of Staffs to be pulled out of retirement. Judge blocks Trump order ending federal support for diversity equity programs. A federal judge in Maryland on Friday temporarily blocked President Donald Trump from implementing bans on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs as federal agencies. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, as plaintiffs put it, efforts to foster inclusion have been widespread and uncontroversially legal for decades. It was not immediately clear how Abelson's decision may apply to actions already taken by the Trump administration, including shutting DEI offices at many agencies and firing staff. Hungary's judges rally for judicial freedom. Hungarian judges and court staff marched to the Ministry of Justice in the Budapest Saturday, demanding judicial independence, freedom of expression for judges, and better pay. The freedom of courts has been contentious issues, causing a rift between the Prime Minister Viktor Orban and the European Union. Pentagon to cut 5,400 probationary workers. Would cut 5,400 jobs as part of President Donald Trump's drive to slash the federal workforce a day after Republican lawmakers faced jeers back home. Hamas frees six hostages after returning body of Shirin Bibas. Pope Francis is critical condition, says Vatican. Leading contenders make final appeals to German voters before landmark election. Chancellor Olaf Scholz meanwhile insisted that he hopes for an improbable last-minute comeback. Generals are electing new parliament Sunday after campaign focused on the state of Europe's biggest economy and calls to curb migration, while uncertainty has grown rapidly about the future of Ukraine and strength of Europe-US alliance. BNP leader beaten to death by rivals in Dhaka police. Rushdie Stabber, guilty of attempted murder, faces up to 25 years in jail. Chinese scientists find bat virus that can infect humans like COVID-19. One killed, two injured in knife attack in East City. A knife attack killed one and injured two in the city of Mulhouse in eastern France on Saturday, French channel BFM TV said. Officials confirmed third poliovirus case of 2025. Pakistan health authorities on Saturday confirmed the third poliovirus case of the year in the year as the crippling virus continues to play havoc. After over a century, archaeologists find a pharaoh's tomb near the Valley of Kings. IB reply to House panel will send note on regulation soon. Government examines if new legal framework is needed to regulate digital platforms amid complaints of violence and obscenity pertaining to content on digital platforms, especially in the backdrop of Ranveer Allahabadiya controversy. The central government is examining the need to create a new legal framework to regulate such platforms. In its communication to a parliamentary panel, the Union Information and Broadcasting Ministry has said there is growing concern in the society that constitutional right of freedom of expression is being misused to showcase obscene and violent content on digital platforms. It has told the Standing Committee on Communications and Information Technology, headed by BJP MP Nishikant Dubey, that while certain provisions exist under current laws, there is a growing demand for a stricter and effective legal framework to regulate such harmful content. The ministry has taken note of these developments and is in the process of examining current statutory provisions and the need for a new legal framework. Less than 10 days ago, the committee has asked the IB Ministry on February 13 regarding the amendments needed in the existing laws to clamp down controversial content in the wake of emergence of new technology and media platforms. The panel had specifically raised the issue surrounding Allahabadiya during the meeting last week. Ex-RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das to be a principal secretary to the Prime Minister. The government on Saturday appointed retired IAS officer, former Reserve Bank of India Governor, as the principal secretary to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He probably he is probably the first principal secretary with experience in both fiscal and monetary policy. His appointment will be coterminous with the term of the Prime Minister or until order whichever is earlier. Das appointment is significant. It comes as a critical juncture with the economy facing challenges from the trade wars sparked by the US President Donald Trump policies, rupee volatility, and a broader slowing down of the Indian economy. His expertise, both as a manager of fiscal, he served both as Revenue Secretary and Economic Affairs Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. as well as as well as monetary policy puts him at a vantage position. Centre sets ball rolling to probe IIM Rohtak director awaits nod, tickets as gifts, small screenings, Dubai braces for a humdinger. Belgavi dispute back, conductor assaulted for not speaking Marathi. The bus conductor was allegedly assaulted after an altercation with two students for not speaking in Marathi. The decade-old dispute between Maharashtra and Karnataka over the Belgavi reared its head again when the KSTC bus conductor was allegedly assaulted after an altercation with two students for speaking in Kannada and not Marathi. Education primary for this 8-year-old girl in Uttarakhand in a school and class of her own. As Anshika Rawat, pigtails and all, pauses to look at the mighty Himalayas from her school veranda, a flurry of activity starts around her before the 8-year-old settles into her classroom with red desk and plenty of sunlight. She recites the morning prayer and national pledge every day. While it takes village to raise a child, it takes headmaster Bijayanand Bijalwan, Anganwadi staffer Gulab Devi, and Bhojan Mata Darshini Devi to educate Anshika, the only student at the government primary school in Bhatoli in village of Uttarakhand Tehri district. Roads to water, hospitals, minister hit the ground running, inspect works, remains visible, expose AP's misgovernance, BJP's brief to cabinet. Signboard on Luton's Delhi, roads defaced, act filmed. Three men defaced two road signboard on Humayun Road and Akbar Road in Luton's Delhi with black spray paint late Friday, raised slogans and filmed the act. Most of you worked for party did not focus on candidates. Aides of gangsters Bhau Bhavna held an encounter. Missing baby mystery women and auto ride. How police busted child kidnapping gang. Chauhan gets broken seat on flight. Air India starts probe. Aviation Minister seeks action. Agri Minister, isn't this cheating the passengers? I don't care about discomfort in sitting, but it is unethical to make passengers sit on a bad and uncomfortable seats after charging them full amount. Government withdraws draft advocates bill after BCI's flag protest after strikes by lawyers and objections of the Bar Council of India, Union Law Ministry and Justice on Saturday withdrew the draft Advocates Amendment Bill published on February 13 and said it will be processed afresh for consultation after consultation with stakeholders. In a statement, Ministry said the draft bill has been published on Department of Legal Affairs website on February 13, demonstrating the government's commitment to transparency and broader engagement with stakeholders and the public. However, considering the number of suggestions and concerns received, it has been decided to conclude the consultation process now. Based on the feedback received, the draft bill as revised will be processed ahead afresh for consultation. Draft bill, which was open for public consultation seeking to amend the Advocates Act 1961, faced several criticism from the BCI and the lawyers. The very concept of autonomy and independence of the bar is attempted to demolish by this draft. Draft bill has provisions that would allow the government to nominate up to 3 members to the Bar Council of India, issue directions to the BCI, and frame regulations for foreign lawyers and firms. The draft bill also expanded the definition of legal practitioners to include lawyers working with foreign firms and corporate entities. The draft bill introduced a new section prohibiting boycotts or absenteeism from courts work. It said no association of advocates or nor any member of association or advocate, either individually or collectively, shall call for a boycott or abstinence. Awe of Ellora, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and his wife Sudesh Dhankar during a visit to the Ellora caves in Maharashtra on Saturday. Central team seeks data from farmers on MSP guarantee, talks again on March 19. Jaishankar says information from US concerning government looking into it. Sengol to merger of Union Railway budgets, AIU's parliament books a record shift. The installation of Sengol in Lok Sabha and a marshal carrying it in the president's procession to parliament, the merger of union budget and railway budget, provision of sending SMS alerts to the MPs about their questions, and the AI based facility for making the parliamentary proceedings available for multiple languages, and the app for accessing all information about the session. These are all part of parliamentary procedures now. 8 trapped after Telangana tunnel collapses, rescuers race against time. PM dials CM. Nepal students like our children, Majhi assures only of strict action. From Delhi stage, message for peace in Manipur via Taiwan. Imphal born NST alumnus holds first international show of his play Karni in capital, highlights futility of conflict. Budget abandons the lesser gods too. I am usually skeptical of bare promises made by the government. I prefer a timetable towards implementing the promises and performance report at the end. Here are examples. The Here are the examples. Uh, Economy will double to 5 trillion by 2022. In 2022, every house will have a 24/7 electricity. Every Indian will have a house by 2022. PM promises farmers income double by 2022. Bullet trains to be reality by 2022, says Narendra Modi. Money is absolutely numbers. Budget 25-26 also continued many promises, including 7 schemes, 8 missions, and 4 funds. There was no allocation of money for many of these the schemes and missions. Naturally, during the debate of the budget, Honorable Finance Minister was questioned. Budget is about money, and money is allocated and spent in absolute numbers. Finance Minister took cover under proportions, not absolute numbers. For example, she admitted her income tax relief of 1 lakh crore to income taxpayers, including the relief given to the rich and the very rich, but explained that she had given proportionately small relief to the rich. The question that she did not answer why do persons who have an annual income of 1 crore to 500 crore deserve any relief at all. Every economic decision involves the principle of equity and morality. Modi government had long ago abandoned that principle and FM dutifully followed her leader while giving tax relief. FM adopted the same technique while explaining the cuts in the capital expenditure. The cuts are real. Undeniably, in 24-25, central government capital expenditure was cut by 92,000 crore, and the grants to state for capital expenditure were cut by 90,000 crore. FM denied that there were any cuts as proportion to GDP and asserted that the budget's estimates were higher. Assuming that the estimates were correct, what is the guarantee that there will not be cuts in 25-26 too? Where did the cuts fall? Taking into account both capital and revenue expenditure, major cuts were in critical sectors: health, education, social welfare, agriculture, rural development, urban development, and employment generation. Who is hurt most by the cuts in expenditure on the above heads? The FM started her reply in the Rajya Sabha. MPs were aware of her debating style and she did not disappoint them. At 5:20 pm, she took a swipe at Manmohan Singh, ridiculing his wisdom and his vision of 1991. There are weeks in which I feel that Indian politics is as befuddling as a bad Bollywood film. This is one of them. Let me explain in every detail why I find myself bewildered by what transpired in the week gone by. Last week it was the BJP that seemed to become obsessed with the foreign hand on account of comment made by the Donald Trump. The newspaper reported on the front page last week that money did not come to India but went instead to Bangladesh. In any case, my limited point is that a country that hopes to sit on a high table with its Viksit countries must stop being paranoid about a foreign hand. In times when Mrs. Gandhi saw the foreign hand everywhere, we did not aspire to ever become a developed country. We knew we were always going to be a third world and third rate. So the Prime Minister's only aspiration was to remove poverty. Was Garibi Hatao was the mantra. Then as I watched Delhi's new Chief Minister being sworn in with pomp and ceremony last week, I noticed another reversal. On that stage in the Ramleela Maidan stood the BJP's mightiest leaders, but although this was clearly a show of strength, the supercilious arrogance that defined these leaders before the Lok Sabha elections was gone. This change has been obvious in the Prime Minister's demeanour ever since he failed to return to power with a full majority. But now it seems as if other BJP leaders have understood that Indian voters despise all signs of arrogance in their elected representatives. Has this happened because of that stern message Mohan Bhagawat sent at the Lok Sabha election, or has it happened after serious introspection? Since the Lok Sabha election, BJP has won elections in Haryana, Maharashtra, but winning Delhi was special because the victory came nearly after 3 decades. The BJP now rules 14 states and NDA alliance controls 19 altogether. In the old days, when Prime Minister boasted of winning more than 400 seats and said he had been sent by God himself to save India, there was conceit in him. Congress party for its part has been showing signs of arrogance and entitlement that often makes the leader sound as if he has already become prime minister. Rahul Gandhi has been stuttering about like a peacock ever since he doubled his party's seats in the Lok Sabha and managed enough to finally become the leader of opposition. But instead of showing grace and humility in his new role, he continues to make changes of personal corruption. It is not Rahul Gandhi but his mummy who is behaving as if she once more rules India. When asked to comment on the president's address to parliament, she said it was so long and boring that the president herself seemed exhausted by the end of it. She looked tired, poor thing. Not wise to speak this way about the President of India, but not good for Sonia Ji's own image. It makes her sound as if she believes she is entitled to speak that this way. It exhibits that the same old arrogance that people were totally fed up with the end of her reign as the kingmaker who could appoint and sack the Prime Minister. Until the Lok Sabha election, it was Narendra Modi who had such an exalted sense of power that he elevated himself from mere mortal to messenger of God. That did not go down well with the voters. Recent elections indicate that Gandhi family's arrogance is not popular either. The Supreme Court was scathing in its opinion on Ranveer Allahabadia's grossly unfunny comedy but ultimately protected him from arrest in several FIRs filed across the country. It's been a stroke of good fortune for him. Imagine the humiliation of being the first comedian in history to be incarcerated for an appalling joke. That said, one must reluctantly concede that being a crass upstart is not a crime, no matter how much some of us would wish it would be. Otherwise, why single out El Habadia, his team of cohorts, and several others, trade on similar cringe-inducing banality that passes off as comedy on YouTube? Writing jokes for a living is hard work, and isn't always a barrel of laughs. Watching older episodes of India's Got Talent, it's clear that the producers couldn't care less about comedy as an art form. They are there for the bucks. In a country of 1.4 billion, it's not that hard to find fresh few lakh followers who are titillated by crude humor, dripping with cheap innuendo and abusive language. When money is rolling in with zero effort, the flourishing Indian attitude of Kam Chalalo too prevails. When why bother raising the bar? There's this idea that comedy is a big gift that some people are born with, that it comes to them naturally. Actually, like any other art form, it's learned skill that needs to be worked on incessantly. Jerry Seinfeld refers to himself as a lifelong student of his craft and continues to write one joke a day. There's plenty to laugh at in everyday life, but it requires a skilled observer to highlight the hilarious contradictions in daily existence. No one does it better than America's late night hosts, who are probably thrilled at Donald Trump's return. For anyone in funny business, it he is an endless source of amusement, a gift that keeps on giving. Marcel Proust had said we should be grateful to the people who make us happy, but that could be also paraphrased as let us be grateful to those who make us laugh. It's a thought that uh, occurs to me every time I stumble on the rerun of Mr. Bean, that if I was on the Nobel Committee, he's the first guy I would recommend for a prize. It's a social service he has been performing by sending half the world into delighted hysterics with his goofy antics. If it's Oscar season, but somehow one rarely seems like the likes of Rowan Atkinson's rewarded by the Academy that could really do with a sense of humor. Oscar Awards viewership is diminishing because people are derisive of the gap between films that win and the films we like to watch. Typically, movies where protagonist has cerebral palsy but can valiantly paint with one toe, gets fetid or daunting tearjerkers called 12 Years a Slave. The frightening title is enough to make one lunge for the remote and turn off the TV. They may well be deserving, but comedy has far greater resonance than it is given credit for. It that it took a court intervention to scare Indian comedians into hopefully producing better material for their acts. No big concern if we don't get Russian crude, says BPCL director Sanjay Khanna, director refineries, BPCL. BPCL plans to build a large coastal refinery in Andhra Pradesh. There's some chatter that Saudi Aramco or ADNOC might be interested in picking up the stake. We needed to expand our refining capacity, and in the meantime, we got a great offer from Andhra Pradesh, which included coastal land for the project and other support. So we decided to go ahead and start work on a detailed feasibility report. As of now, that is the level we have reached. India US manufacture goods at different cost complement each other. If Tesla comes to India, there will be huge demand. The government is also working towards electric mobility. We welcome Tesla and all companies worldwide looking to invest or manufacture in India. How RBI's 10 billion swap can boost liquidity after conducting a dollar rupee buy sell swap of 5 billion less than a month ago. RBI on Friday decided to inject rupee liquidity for longer duration through an $10 billion swap arrangement. Indian banking system encountered its worst liquidity crunch in more than a decade in January 25. Liquidity deficit peaked at 3.15 lakh crore. As was the case in the preceding month, tax outflows, GST payments, and the RBI forex interventions to stabilize the rupee and the currency in circulation outflows significantly impacted cash flows in the banking system. The deficit led to increased dependence by banks on a market borrowing, thereby keeping interbank call money rates rate at which money lent to each banks lend to each other consistently above the policy repo rate of 6.5%. The RBI has been selling dollars to stabilize the rupee, thereby removing an equivalent amount in rupee from the system. Its outstanding net forward sales of the dollar surged to 67.93 billion. Swap is in the nature of a simple buy-sell foreign exchange swap from the RBI side. Bank will sell US dollars to the RBI and simultaneously agree to buy the same amount of US dollars at the end of the swap period. In the first leg of the transaction, a bank will sell dollars to the RBI at FPIL reference rate of the auction date. The settlement of the first leg of the swap will take place on the spot basis. At home in her world, and let it be an invitation to a philosophy of life that refuses to hothouse children so that they can fit into the societal rut of so-called success. My letter is not to blame you. Many of you write to me after reading my column. You resonate with my ideas, believe we have come together to do better for our children. I appreciate. Like you, as a parent, I have sleepless nights and very heavy days. My plea is to keep the conversation going, to question the idea of productivity that is robbing our little ones their childhood. It's not rocket science, it's a position, a resistance, and a refusal, and a commitment to let it be. How a photograph of Mahatma Gandhi's skin taken at a Congress meet in 1948 helped solve the riddle and connect two families. While Pune may have a cluster of Guillain-Barré syndrome cases, the disease has been reported from other states too and has been happening in spurts due to bacteria and viral infections. 25-year-old engineering student Sunil smiles feebly as he is now able to breathe on his own without tubes and is able to have a mast dial and rise. Having regained his strength, he wants to be his joyous self as he was just a month ago, dancing at a friend's wedding. Then he suddenly felt weak in the limbs and collapsed in the heap. Within hours, he could not swallow the water he sipped, leaked from his nose, or breathe. Then his legs gave way. Little did he know that these were the signs of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder where body's immune system mistakenly attacks its own nerves, thinking them to be the enemy. A rare neurological disorder where body's immune system attacks its own nerves, thinking them to be the enemy. This leads to muscle weakness, tingling in the hands and feet, difficulty walking, and in several cases paralysis. GBS can develop after infection, especially from bacteria and viruses. Triggering an immune response that damages the nervous system. Usually, the immune system fights back the microbe, but in some patients, it malfunctions and mistakenly attacks and damages the nervous system, particularly the peripheral nervous system, nerves linked to limb movements. The first case of GBS in Pune was reported in early January 25, and by mid February, 213 cases and 11 deaths. GBS is not an unknown disorder, known disorder. Many people keep getting throughout the year, and certain seasons can be triggered by bacterial or viral infections. The reports from the rest of the India are probably not like the alarming cluster. Sunil had diarrhea a few weeks before he showed at a pediatric intensive care unit. It's The doctor is happy to discharge two children, a 6-year-old and another 6-year-old boy. Early diagnosis and treatment can significantly improve outcomes. Confirmatory tests like MRI and nerve conduction velocity test, which shows how quickly electrical impulses travel through nerve, can hasten. The two main treatment options are intravenous immunoglobulin and plasma exchange. IVIG and plasma exchange, intravenous immunoglobulin and plasma exchange. The first involves injecting antibodies from healthy donors to help stop the immune attack on nerves, and the second filters the blood to remove harmful antibodies from attacking the nervous system. Supportive care is also critical. Many parents require ventilators if the breathing muscles become weak. Dr. Aditya Bari, a consulting physician at both Pune and Sahyadri hospitals who have been treating Sunil, had to do a tracheostomy, a procedure to make an opening in the neck and insert a tube into the windpipe, a trachea, to facilitate breathing. GPS results in a progressive weakness of the muscles responsible for breathing, particularly the diaphragm that helps us breathe and out. Patients cannot cough, making it difficult to clear airway secretions. However, recovery from GBS varies. Most patients improve within weeks, while others take months to regain full mobility. Elderly on multimeds have longer hospital stays. A third of the prescriptions inappropriate stays say study. What is carb cycle all about? This may help maintain muscle mass while shedding calories. In a nutshell, by varying carb intake, your body learns to use insulin effectively, reducing insulin resistance and chances of diabetes. Focus on fiber-rich, non-starchy vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats like egg, meat, fruits, nuts, and avocados. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.